This is Tiger Cats Postgame on the Ticats Audio Network.
Well, I'd be lying if I said it was the most exciting game in CFL history, something we kind of predicted going into it with the weather and the third-string quarterback and the third-string quarterback for the Ottawa Redblacks late there, Louie B alongside Courtney Steven. This is Tiger Cats postgame. The Hamilton Tiger Cats pick up their second win in a row, their fourth win in the last 5 games. They're now 4-3 as they hit the halfway mark of the season thanks to a 24-7 win over the Ottawa Redblacks. Lots coming up here in Tiger Cats postgame. We're going to be joined by Coach O. We'll be joined by Jumal Rolle. We'll name our performer of the game. We'll get some alumnus analysis with Bakari Grant. We'll revisit Courtney's Carstar Keys to Victory. But Courtney, let's just talk about this game because, like I said, it wasn't pretty, but there's no such thing as style points in the CFL. The Ticats got the win. They did the job they came to Ottawa to do, and they're going to hit the halfway mark above 500 as it stands right now, first place in the East Division.
And you know what? That they got what they came for in Ottawa, right? And probably in the locker room, the coach is going to give a speech, something like, you know what, guys, it wasn't pretty, but we got the job done. 24 hours and we're on to the next one. And I think this bye week that they're about to enter onto is one where they earned it, man. Every minute off that they're going to get is something that they paid dues for. So, hats off to them for battling through in a tough one. The weather wasn't on their side. A lot of the bounces early on weren't on their side, but they did exactly what they had to do to get that win.
Ticats, and again, we're going to be joined by Coach O, and I'm thinking about how I'm going to phrase this question already. But it was a tale of two halves for this team, right? I mean, they scored 14. They were up 14-0 in the first half. You and I were talking about it at Tiger Cats at the half. Coach Salad mentioned it as well. It seemed like the team should have been up by more. And then they come out. They didn't get a first down the entire third quarter. Just barely got a few there in the fourth quarter. But again, style points don't matter. This is kind of what they came. We knew it was going to be an ugly game. The Ticats got the job done. And if you're the Ottawa Redblacks, you got to be looking around thinking, what's next? What else do we have to do?
And it's tough for Ottawa, right? They got some serious soul searching to do. And it's going to be an uphill battle anytime when you have 2 quarterbacks go down in the same game. I know I was thinking to myself, Matt Nichol got, 4 plays in, maybe 5 plays in, and then he pulls up lame with a hand injury. So, hopefully those guys, they get mended because regardless of who you're playing against, you never want to see anybody get injured. But you know that these Red Blacks coaches are going back to the drawing board and really just trying to decide, do we throw everything out and start from scratch, or do we have something we can build on here? That's really the main questions they're asking.
Ticats rushing the ball again a lot, 29 times for 118 yards. I mean, that was kind of the game plan. It was the game plan. It worked against Calgary, so you had to think, why change it up? But we've made it this far into Tiger Cats postgame, and we're just now bringing up the defense because this Ticats defense is really leaving a mark, and I know Andy had mentioned it there as they were signing off. They were building on something in 2019, and it seems like they've just picked up where they left off here in 2021.
And it's been a total team effort on that defensive side of the ball, and I think it all starts up front. There was a lot of disruption, and they were causing pressure with just bringing 4. The occasional blitz here and there, but, Jagarrett Davis did a great job disrupting all game long, crashing down that end, plugging holes, putting pressure on the quarterback, and really just making it tough for them to get comfortable back there. And I think that makes it easier for the linebackers to flow in the run game, and it makes it easier for the DBs who are, covering some decent receivers out there. I know it was wet and whatnot, and we didn't see the ball stretch down the field as much as you might have seen in a dry weather game, but that D-line, they came out and they set the tempo early, and I think that it benefited the Ticats in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Just taking a look at some of the top-line stats here. Total offense, Ticats finished the game with 232 yards on offense. And again, solid performance by the defense of the Ticats, holding Ottawa to just 197 yards total. And I think one thing, you and I were talking about it during the game, was the Ticats did a really good job of staying disciplined. Taking just 3 penalties for 30 yards, one of them an offside, one of them a no yards, and then a holding in special teams coverage as well. I mean, if you can keep your team to 3 penalties a game, you can get a defensive touchdown. You can find a way to win games that maybe I'm not saying this one is, but finding games that maybe you shouldn't win. That's what good teams do. That's a mark of a good team, is winning these kind of games.
And, whenever it's a close game, it's going to come down to a few things: turnovers, field position, and penalties. And those three things are tied very closely together. We saw from the very opening of the game where Ottawa had an opportunity to get great field position on a big explosive return on the very first play, but they shot themselves in the foot with a penalty, and that became a common theme, whether it was the last return where we saw the fumble by Dedmon, who we can't really be mad at because, to be honest, he was the only spark they had all game long. So, you live by it, you die by it when you got one person who's really a threat. But you can't say they didn't come out and give an effort. I just don't know if the focus was there full game for Ottawa. And you got to give a hats off to the preparation of a team in the Ticats who's coming off back-to-back games, back-to-back games, and they were able to be disciplined, focused, and I think it showed.
We'll get the answer when we're joined by Jumal Rolle, but what do you think the mood in the locker room is like right now? I mean, yes, it wasn't a pretty half of football in the second half. There are going to be things that the coaches are going to want to address. There's going to be different looks, but there's a lot of time off. What do you think the guys are going through right now in the locker room?
If I'm in that locker room, I'm pretty sure I'm hearing something to the effect of, you know what, good job, guys. We got it done. Let's fall back for a little while, decompress, because, you have to exhale a little bit. You can't hold your breath through the whole season. You got to give yourself a chance to rejuvenate, because it is a grind and it is a marathon. But look, you squeak this one out. You're 4-3. Go take a breath, decompress a bit.
Yeah.
And then we're going to come back full throttle and hit it.
And so we were talking about this. This is week 8, Wednesday, week 8. The Ticats do have a game week 9. It is in 10 days. So, it's not like it's a real bye week for the Ticats because they're back on the practice field. But you have to get the sense that coach is going to let them get away.
Absolutely.
For a couple of days.
Absolutely. He has to, because he sat in the seat, right? And I think when you play for somebody who knows what it's like to be a player, it's a whole different experience, because they know that extra day, or maybe even when you do come back and you're doing a walkthrough instead of a full speed practice, the coach is giving you a chance to show that, you know what, you've earned it, that I know you can focus and you can get a lot out of a little physical activity. So we'll do that, preserve you. In the CFL, whichever team is the healthiest at the end of the year, that's the one that has the best chance to win. So David Watford throwing the ball 25 times, completing 15 of those passes. That's a 60% conversion rate, 115 yards, 1 touchdown. He also ran the ball 11 times for 54 yards. Again, they're not numbers that are going to blow you out of the water by any stretch. But I think, like you had mentioned at Tiger Cats at the half, it was those passes, those incompletions that he threw away to avoid a sack, or it was those incompletions he had to throw away to avoid an interception. He played, I would say, relatively mistake-free football. Would you agree? Yeah, he managed the game, and that's what you got to ask your quarterback to do. In some games, you go out, you throw the thing 60 times, and your job is to put points on the board and move the ball. And I think today what his job was to manage the clock, in which they did very well, and to make sure they got first downs. And that's something that they did better than the opponent, and I think it contributed to the win.
Yeah, especially, late there in the game for Dedmon to get that touchdown. Now it's a 2-score game. I wanted to get your thoughts because in the play immediately after Matt Nichols went down, they went to Nate Bahar at quarterback. They went for the short yardage sneak. On their own 13, their own 12, you didn't like the play. You didn't like the play call. You weren't really sure what Paul LaPolice was thinking there.
Yeah, honestly, the quarterback sneak, it looks like a simple play, but it's like almost a rhythm to it. You snap the ball, you get the ball, you got to find the soft spot in the D-line, you got to lean into it. There's a certain chemistry between the center and the quarterback, and honestly, if you're not taking those reps on a regular basis and getting that practice in, it's not going to be successful.
And it was a 2-score game.
And so, exactly, the game was not out of reach. Like 7 minutes, 14 points in 7 minutes in the CFL, like that's normal.
Yeah, and that was, it was I believe at the time it was 21-7. So like you said, that's a a makeable game. Anyway, we'll get more on this game in just a little bit, but right now, exclusive access to the coaching room. It's time to check in with Coach O, presented by Access Storage. And Coach Steinauer, what do you say to the guys after a win like that?
I just told them great win, congratulate them. We overcame a lot of adversity out there, a lot of injuries, and we just kept plugging. So I was just extremely proud of them, especially finishing up this 4-17.
Hey, Coach, a lot of people always talk about making big plays and stretching the ball down the field and things like that. But I think lately the team has really been showing that the important thing is playing mistake-free. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, 100%, Courtney. You're bang on. And when you're basically running new offense with new players and you're trying to find a way, the key ingredient, just like any game, is to try to take it away and not turn it over. And the last few weeks we've done a decent job of that and given ourselves the best opportunity to win each week. So. We played a little bit of small ball, and then at the same time, our defense was playing lights out, I felt, and then we had the big pick six. That kind of killed a little bit of momentum, but they didn't lay down, right? And the weather and the conditions were something we hadn't faced. So I was just proud of our guys responding, but back to your original point, taking care of the football is always paramount.
You mentioned the defense. I mean, it looked like defense didn't allow a touchdown. You guys you've been healthy, you've been confident. What have you seen from this group of guys and what Mark Washington's been able to pull out of them the last few weeks?
Well, obviously the coaches have done a great job putting together plans, but as you know, it's always the players' execution. And I think, there's something to be said for belief, and there's something to be said for, just executing when it's your time to make a play. And I feel like we're getting better at that. I'm definitely happy with it. As a coach, you're rarely going to be satisfied. But, the defense's job is to make sure that we're in every football game, and they've done a great job of that.
Coach, in almost every category, you guys came out on top. Mainly, though, I'm looking at penalties and turnovers. It looked like you guys were just a little bit more focused out there. Would you attribute that to having, some good veteran leadership, or is it the coaching, or what do you think it is?
Sure. I'd love to sit here and tell you it was the coaching, Court. But, hey, I'll tell you what, each week, and you've been in our locker rooms before, each week there's things that we need to improve on. And, regardless of our opponent and what the game plan is, there's just certain things that we're trying to improve on. Playing more disciplined was definitely one of the things. And also when we had teams backed up, making sure that we can at least go 2 or a maximum 4 and out. And we were able to do that. So it's just at the end of the day, it's about getting one more point. We're not going to be we're always going to celebrate wins because they're hard to come by. The defense shutting them out is a crazy feat in this league. So super proud of them, but I'm proud of everybody in the organization. They worked hard over these last 4 games in 17 days. Couldn't be more proud of them.
Coach, to that point, I know it's not an official bye week, but you got about 10 days between your next game. Safe to say the guys earned a day off or 2 in the next week or so?
They've earned it a while back. We just haven't been able to give it to them.
Well said. Coach, thanks for checking in with us. We really appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys.
That is Coach O, exclusive access to the coaching room presented by Access Storage. And we're going to be joined by Jumal Rolle in just a little bit. And Courtney, he said, you've been in those rooms. You've been in those locker rooms. It is a team effort, but it's nice when you can celebrate a defense that goes out there and holds the offense to 0 points.
And like Coach said, that's a rare feat because in this league, you got a wide field, you got the motion, and really you have to be set up in complementary football to have the opportunity to shut an offense out. So kudos to the special teams. They were up against a tall task, and they did what they had to do to make sure that, for the most part, they contained Dedmon. But you know what? A dog's going to have his day. He had some big plays, and ultimately I think the defense did their part to contribute to this win.
Oh, absolutely. And, and we're going to name our performer of the game in just a little bit, but there were a lot of guys to choose from. We were talking about Jagarrett Davis. Plays that aren't going to make the highlight reel, plays that you're not going to see on SportsCenter. But you go back to that 2nd and 1 early on in the game. Garrett Davis makes a huge stop, makes it 3rd and 1.5. And then I think it was probably Simone who got credit for the tackle, or Dylan Wynn who got credit for the tackle. But it was the play at JG you saw that really kind of made the difference there.
Absolutely. And those are the ones that don't register, like you said. He's crashing down the tackle and the guard, basically taking up 3 gaps, that D, the C, and the B with his whole body so that the linebacker could scrape over and get free access to the ball carrier. Those are the ones that go unsung. But in the film room, the guys who know, the people like Simone Lawrence, if you ask him, who would you want to take out to dinner after a game like this, it's probably the D linemen in front of him who are clearing up the path, give him a chance for those tackles.
Yeah, I mean, we could have picked anyone of the defense for a performer of the game, and we'll get to that in just a second. But right now, we go down to the locker room and connect with Jumal, Rolle, his exclusive post-game interview presented by Access Storage. Jumal, 4 games in 17 days. You're done. You finished that stretch with a 3-1 record. You're sitting first in the East. What's the mood in the locker room right now?
I mean, we're feeling good, but we know we have more work to put in, and we got a lot more to prove. There's always room for improvement, so we're just looking forward to the next one.
Rolle, this is Courtney here, man. Congrats on the good win. I want you to tell the people a little bit about what it's like to prepare for a game, like what you look at when you're going up against a quarterback like the one you just played. I think there's an opportunity for you to make plays, but are you picking your moments, thinking about when you're going to have that opportunity for a big play like the one you got? How do you do that in preparation?
So, so during the week, man, we just try to break down formations, break down certain concepts we see, just seeing what the opponent like to do in certain situations. And so, during the call, during the play that we made as a defense, it was just the right call and the right time and the right place. We've seen it all week during practice, and we were prepared for it when it came. And so credit to everybody else out there executing too. So we all made a play at the right time.
I mean, Jumal, when you look at the secondary that you guys have been playing with, you guys have been relatively healthy. You've been consistent, especially you and Carriel there on that side. I mean, are you guys at the point where you don't even really need to talk to each other? You just understand where the other's going to be so well at this point that, I mean, it just seems like you guys, your chemistry right now is indescribable from what I'm watching right now.
Well, it's always a time for communication. We always got to communicate about what we're seeing. And just staying, in touch with what we're seeing out there pre-snap, during the play, and after the play too. So we always communicate, but it feels good, and it's always good to play with somebody that you've been playing with for a while and get a good feel for how he likes to play and how I like to play. And so it's been an enjoyment for sure.
Jumal, you guys have a lot of fun out there. How would you describe the personality of this defense?
Violent, man. If I had one word to, describe the defense, it's violent, and we have fun. We got each other back, no matter the circumstance. So it's a brotherhood, that can't be broke. So that's how I would describe it.
Jumal, enjoy the flight home, safe travels, and we'll see you next week here back at Tim Hortons Field.
Thank you. See you soon.
Absolutely. That is Jumal Rolle, who had a big game. That post-game interview presented by Access Storage. And I guess while we're here, we might as well name our performer of the game, and that's presented by Hercules Tires, Ride On Strength. And Courtney, who did we go with for our performer of the game?
Jumal Rolle.
Oh, we should have told him while we had him here then. Jumal Rolle, we were talking about this. Really, anyone on that secondary, he was the one who came up with a huge interception, took it 86 yards back to the house. Great play there by Jumal.
And anytime you score on defense, it's really, potentially a 14-point swing because you're taking the opportunity to score 7 from the opponent and you're putting 7 on the board for yourself. So that's a huge one, especially 80 yards. Goodness gracious. Yeah. And then get back out there after the kickoff, fresh off of the oxygen tank.
Lots to come up here on Tiger Cats postgame. We're going to get some alumnus analysis when we're joined by Bakari Grant. We'll revisit Courtney's Car Start Keys to Victory. And we're also giving away a pair of gold seats to see the Ticats take on the Alouettes on October the 2nd. So stay tuned. I will give you the keywords that you'll need to know to send us an email at gameday@ticats.ca. So keep that in the send folder, and I'll give you the keywords coming up in just a little bit. I want to run through a few more stats here with you because the Ticats, like we said, ran the ball 29 times. For the second game in a row, the leading rusher, David Watford, But Sean Thomas-Erlington contributed 9 carries for 41 yards. When you have that kind of 1-2 punch, it really keeps defenses on their toes because, those RPOs, they can go for, what is Watford going to hand the ball? How does a defense prepare for a quarterback who's that mobile, who has that many threats, and with the Ticats playbook that really we saw Pappy White run the ball, we saw Tim White run the ball. I mean, how does the defense even prepare for something like that?
Well, you know what you're doing when you have multiple potential ball carriers in the backfield is you're testing the defense's rules. And everybody has to know where their eyes go in order to know where the play is that they need to make. So when the quarterback has the potential to run the ball, man, you're putting somebody in a bind. So they did a great job of putting the defense in stress, and it showed with the ability of so many people to carry the rock.
All right, time to get some alumnus analysis. Post-game edition. Very pleased to be joined by Bakari Grant. And Bakari, do you have any memories of playing wet games like that? I mean, it was pouring rain in the first half. Those games couldn't have been a lot of fun.
Wet games, man. Some major experience with that. I don't know if too many folks remember, but when we were playing back, I think it was 2013 in Guelph, we had puddles not on the field but in our shoes, man. It was soaking wet. We were trying to move around, and, it's a part of the game. That's the beautiful part about football, and some people call it old school, but when you have to deal with the elements, that's part of the game.
BG, you always been a guy who like to get his nose dirty, and you go out there, you do the dirty work, you block all day long, you get in the defense's head, you bring the energy. So in a game like this, for the receivers to find work when maybe there's not as many passing plays, what's the mindset got to be approaching a game like this for receivers?
It's interesting, Court. Like growing up in California, you're used to a certain type of weather playing a game. So when I got up to Canada, which was technically my first, real experience, full seasons outside of California weather, and, you get into snow games, you get into these, rain games, or just, like you said, just these dirty games where, they call them an ugly win. And those ugly wins really come down to that mental toughness, man. It's how much can you find work, like you said, how much can you act like, you'll see guys in the playoffs come out and warm ups without shirts on when it's snowing and guys diving in the snow piles. That plays into it, Everybody knows on the sideline you can look at a guy and tell if the weather's affecting them or not by the way they're preparing or the way they're shivering or wrapped up in a coat. Mental game is a big part of it. So I definitely like to in these games not let the weather affect my game. Find work. Like you said. No,
that makes a ton of sense. And, I mean, we've been in a ton of games, some games where you're blowing somebody out, other games where you're on the short end of the stick. But, in the second half, when you don't have any points scored yet and you're coming out of the tunnel, if you're Ottawa, what are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking as opposed to what the 14-0 team is coming out of the tunnel? Are you thinking, like, let's bury them? Or are you thinking, man, like, we're about to get beat again? Like, what's the mindset for these players in a situation where Ottawa has been getting beat down all year long and they're coming out of the tunnel at half, down 14 points? What's that mindset like?
It's interesting. It's been kind of a shift. When I came into the league, and back in 2011, Mark Trestman was in Montreal, and they had just come off, I think, about 3 Grey Cup appearances, maybe even wins in the past 4 years. And there was this mentality throughout the league called 57-3. And to relate that to folks, that's 57 minutes of football and then 3 minutes of football. And it really came down to that last 3 minutes where, like they say in the league, no lead is safe. And the only way that you could really have that mentality is if you think about the game as one play at a time, make a play, do your job. When you start thinking about the score and if we're up or if we're down, I'm sure you've been there. I've been there, Court, where we're up 3 touchdowns, and you start easing up, things start becoming funny, and you start laughing, and you drop a ball and it's not that big of a deal, or you drop an interception and it's not that big of a deal, and vice versa on the other side where you're down a little bit, you make a great play, you got to celebrate. You got to celebrate as if you guys are tied up. It's 0-0. You made a good play, and you're trying to give your team momentum. So I think for me, it's always been coming out of the locker room, up 14, down 14. It doesn't matter. If I got an out route, it's me against you. I got to run a good out route. I got to do my job. And if you do that, usually you come out on the better side of the stick. So that has to be the mentality.
Bakari, we've seen the Ticats kind of really change their offensive plan under David Watford, and they've had to, right? I mean, they plan their offense around two guys who can throw the ball deep in Jeremiah Masoli and Dane Evans, and we haven't really seen that from Watford, but at the same time, he hasn't really had a lot of opportunities to practice. But to that point, I want to get your perspective as a receiver. When you know that the game plan isn't going to involve the ball coming to you a whole lot. So I'm thinking of like a Jalen Acklin who's used to maybe 6 or 7 targets, only getting 3. Like, how do you keep yourself focused? How do you keep yourself motivated as a receiver in a game where, hey, the ball's not coming your way?
It's a funny question coming to me. Of course, I'm one of those players, man. Hey, first play of the game, some guys want the fade ball, some guys want the deep post. Send me in on a crackback, send me in on a screen block, send me in to hit somebody and get some contact. That's the way I like to start the game. So games like this absolutely don't bother me, number one. But two, I think it's an awesome game plan that Tommy's been putting together for the past couple of weeks as far as how he's utilizing Dave over there. And when you look at it, minus a couple of those deep throws, I was getting a Ricky Ray vibe. Ricky Ray was a high percentage passer. He took the short ball, he took what was given to him, and he didn't try to force too much. And then every now and again, you get that classic Ricky Ray corner route. So, and obviously he's one of the greatest to do it in the league. So when I look at the game and what Tommy's doing with Dave, I love the way he's utilizing him on the ground. I love the way they're using the sweep to control some of those DNs rushing upfield. And, minus getting some chemistry with some of those players on deep routes, utilizing the outside of the field to stay away from those safeties. I love what they're doing with Dave.
So to take the next step in his quarterback journey, personally, I think, the defenses that he's going to be playing against are going to start keying up on these screens, these short throws to the outside, these quick plays, maybe playing a little bit more zone coverage where they're not really as worried by the deep threat. How do you see him evolving to, his mature form, coming into his own as a quarterback? What do you think that next step looks like for David Watford?
That's an interesting question. I think that in Tommy Condell's offense, utilizing his movement is going to be huge. So potentially getting him outside of the pocket or getting him or telling him, even if it's a drop back, don't be scared to move your feet. What I really like, and when you look at someone like Vernon Adams and how he evolved over the years, is he's a quarterback that can use his legs. But what you see over the past, maybe half a season or back in 2019, the second half of the season, was that when he was using his legs to escape the pocket, his eyes were downfield and he was still looking for that deep ball, still looking for the scramble. Court, it's tough on that big field when the quarterback starts moving around to keep track of those receivers deep. So I think even when he's on the move, meaning Dave, when he's on the move, if he can keep his eyes downfield and still make those deep throws, still make some of those plays on the run, that's tough to stop. I don't care what game plan you have in. If you're spying, you got to rush or you guys got guys dropping back, it makes it real tough.
And I think, we should put it into perspective here. David Watford had 4 practices in total to get ready for 2 games, 3 of them to get ready for that first one where he's actually taking first team reps, and then he comes in to go 2-0. Can you put it into perspective? With that kind of preparation, with the starters, with the offensive line, with the new center, we're talking about Darius Sirocco, who's playing in his 7th career game at center, who's had 3 different quarterbacks to snap the ball to. And can you put into perspective just how impressive it is what David Watford has done with 4 practices to come out with 2 wins in pro football and CFL?
Absolutely. And I think Louie, you speaking directly to it. The perspective I can give on it, and this is why I brought up Ricky Ray, is that to do that, you have to minimize mistakes. It's not always about making the greatest play. It's letting your defense come on the field and get pick sixes 3 weeks in a row. It's about special teams shutting down some of those guys. I know they got a punt return tonight, but for the most part, they've been rock solid, getting fumble recoveries and things like that. So a lot of that is about minimizing those mistakes, not throwing picks, keeping your completion percentage high, and using your legs in those second down situations when you have to. And, the part that sucks about football is if I'm throwing 10 touchdowns and it's 10 fades and it's 5 fades and post routes and corner routes and screen routes, everybody's giving me the glory. But when I don't turn the ball over, when I operate within the system, the credit sometimes starts going to the coordinator or those other positions. So I think he's doing great in that way. And again, the ultimate thing is maintain or keep in perspective, how can you minimize those mistakes and those bad plays, and how can you continue to improve? Because we all know at the end of the day, it's what have you done for me lately? And like you said, if he continues to win and continues to improve, David is going to be awesome. So I love watching him have success, and I spend time with him over in Saskatchewan, and he's just a good dude off the field and a hard worker. So, yeah, it's been awesome.
I hate to be the one to bring us back down to earth, but a win can often make us gloss over some mistakes and some areas for improvement. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking right now, if I'm in Jeff Reinbold's special teams room, it's not going to be as bad as it could have been if we lost. But, the punt return team was having some trouble getting going. I know Frankie didn't do too much in the punt return game today. Credit to Ottawa's coverage teams. And then we give up the big one to Devontae Dedmon. So in terms of special teams getting going, besides the missed field goals as well, what do you think is going to be like in that special teams room when they have their first meeting after this game?
Corey, every week it's not as good as you thought it was. It's not as bad as you thought it was. And I think you're going to find the same thing this week is, rain game, you got to worry about catching the ball security. So just for Frankie to catch all the punts and not fumble the ball, that's one huge one to start. To sniff out the fake, that's a huge heads-up play there. We gave up a big one, and I can say I've played for who I consider two of the best special teams coaches in the league under Mark Killam and Jeff Reinbold, and they hate getting scored on. They literally, it's like they're in there playing the game themselves. So, granted, I know there's going to be some coaching points and some corrections, and hopefully. And I'm sure Reinbold will for sure take advantage of the opportunity to use teach tape. And, Court, this too. You've been in those rooms. He says one of the things that I utilize to this day in my life is confirm it with validity. And he coaches certain aspects of the game, and he uses examples of real-time in-game situations to say, hey, I don't coach you these things just to be talking. I coach you so you can utilize it in the game and that you can have success. So as long as there's coaching opportunities, Jeff's going to be there to coach them up, and I think it'll be all right. It wasn't all bad. It wasn't all good. Definitely some coaching moments in there.
Okay. BG, you just played your fourth game in 17 days. You got a couple of game checks in your pocket. You got 10 days until you play again. What are you doing tomorrow? You get back to Hamilton tonight. You fly home. What are you doing tomorrow?
Well, that comes with a caveat. How many years have I been in the league so far?
All right, let's say what's year 2 BG doing, and what's year 8 BG doing?
Year 2 BG, I'm gonna show up, get some good breakfast in me, show up to the facility, watch some film, maybe hop in the hot tub, do a little game ready on my legs to get me right, and then I'm take the rest of the day off after film. Year 8 BG, man, it's a different game. It's I'm a breakfast, hit the facility. I'm going to be in a sauna, in the spa, and the game ready. I'm going to get stretched out, make sure I get some treatment on whatever is nagging me. And I'm going to hang out at the facility probably till about 3, 4 o'clock watching film and maybe meeting with the quarterback. So it's a little evolution, but I'll tell you the game, it's what they call it. With age, you get wiser, but that youthful ignorance sometimes allows you to do the things you do. So I say it's an evolution process, but get back to it, man. Get back to the drawing board. Meet up with some teammates. Go grab some wings. Maybe hit the bowling alley or something.
Well said. Both sound like great ideas. Bakari, always appreciate you checking in. Thanks for doing this.
Louie B. Court, I appreciate y'all. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. There he is. That's Bakari Grant for some alumnus analysis. And hey, why don't we give away those tickets right now? Well, we'll tell you how to get those tickets. We're giving away a pair of gold seats to see the Ticats take on the Alouettes on October the 2nd. Here's how you enter. You can send us an email at gameday@ticats.ca. That's gameday@ticats.ca. Put the keywords Pigskin Pete in the subject line. Tell us your name and the city in which you live inside the email. It's that simple. So to allow those who are listening on live on the stream as well as in podcast form to enter, the entry deadline is noon on Thursday, September the 23rd, and then we'll randomly pick from all the entries. So the keywords Pigskin Pete and the email gameday@ticats.ca. And you could win a pair of gold seats to see the Ticats take on the Alouettes on October the 2nd. You can be just like Bellin Dye of Welland, who won our tickets last week. All right, Courtney, I asked this question to BG. Want to get your thoughts on it? Especially now, team's got the charter, so they're flying back in style. No train ride for them. But what's that flight gonna be like? Getting back here at the stadium, you're not going to get here probably 1:30, 2 a.m. if they're lucky. Like, what does the next 24 hours look like if you were on this team right now?
I mean, even when you come off that charter. Now, I tell you, the charter is much nicer than riding on the train. Don't get me wrong. The train got the big plush seats. They got the meal for you and all that good stuff. But it takes 5-6 hours, right? So when you hop on that charter, you close your eyes, you get a quick nap in, you're back home in your own bed a lot faster. So the next day, you don't lose that whole day. And I know they got a little bit of time here, but really having that morning in your own bed, that makes a big difference, gives you a chance to get into somewhat of a normal routine. And, being at the facility and having access to all the amenities, stuff that guys don't have access to at all these stadiums. Like, they got a grade A facility here at Tim Hortons Field. So being able to take advantage of those plunge tubs, getting some therapy and some treatment, getting back to feeling like yourself again, that's going to be a huge thing for these guys. So honestly, I'm really happy for them. And back in my day, we didn't fly on a charter, man. I'm talking about you're getting motion sickness and all that kind of stuff right in the back of the train. But there were good times to be had regardless of what the mode of transportation was.
Absolutely, especially after a win.
Oh, absolutely, after a win.
What's the energy? I mean, the energy after a win on a flight versus energy after a loss on a flight. I mean,
after a loss on the flight, the lights are off.
Silence, eh?
Yeah, let me get the USB stick so I can watch some film. I want to see every mistake that I made. Whereas if you win, you can watch film in the morning. Yeah. So there's a few different nuances there, but it's definitely a lot better. The food tastes better. You sleep better. And as some of the coaches say, even your girlfriend's prettier when you win.
I love that. Okay, here's a tweet. This is from @Ticat Mitchell, Scott Mitchell, CEO of the team.
I think I know him.
Yeah, me too. He said, quote, "Very proud of the Ticats' whole organization. Grateful for fan support. Incredibly difficult stretch of 4 games in 17 days. Made no excuses while winning 3 of them, with the only loss on a boink off the upright. They don't ask how. They just ask how many. Big one in 10 days at THF, Tim Hortons Field." That's such a great point. They don't ask how. There's no style points. There's, like you said, you have your high school basketball coach who told you in grade 9.
My grade 8.
Your grade 8. Sorry, it wasn't even in high school yet. Your grade 8 basketball coach. There's no oohs and ahs on the scoreboard. 10 years from now, the Ticats, you're going to look back in the record books and see 24/7 Ticats win.
And that's all that matters at the end of the day. And the guys inside that locker room know what it means and how tough it is. And every coach is going to say it. It sounds cliche, but really it is tough to win in pro football. So I'm happy that they're going to be able to go into the week with a clear conscience for the most part, because the worst thing is when you make a mistake and you have nothing but time to mull over it, and you don't get a chance to make up for that. So, when you have a win, you can build on it. When you are at the bottom of a rut, you feel like, man, I should have, I could have, I would have. But luckily, we're not dealing with that.
Well, and let's put that into perspective, because the Ticats took their first bye week at week 3 of the season. What preceded that was a tough loss in Winnipeg, a tough loss in Saskatchewan. So they had to go into the bye week wanting to get back in there, wanting to prove. Now they go in this stretch of games where, okay, maybe people are talking about them differently around the team. And I know the team doesn't let those outside influences get into the locker room in any sense. They're focused on the job they got to do. But, I mean, when positivity is around the team, I feel like that's easy to keep going, as opposed to trying to dig yourself out of, like you said, these little ruts that you find yourselves through in the season. That being said, this team has been battle tested through 7 games. Like, we're halfway through a 14-game schedule. What else can you throw at this team at this point? What, are you going to take out their number 1 offensive lineman? Oh, they've done that. What, are you going to take out their number 1 receiver? Oh, their number 2 receiver, their number 3 receiver, their number 2 quarterback. Like, I mean, what else can you throw at this team that they haven't gone through?
And exactly like you said, they're battle tested. And I think you benefit from having the friction of a road schedule early in the season. You benefit from being in tight games that go down to the wire. You benefit from having players who aren't necessarily the marquee names being forced to step into the limelight and emerge as those new guys who you can count on in the clutch. Because late in the year, the truth is, there are no rookies. There are no rookies in the playoffs. We need you to step up and play to your full potential. And I know that the coaches are going to continue to build on this momentum. It's better for everybody involved to be in tough situations, because you learn, you grow, and you don't gloss over the things that, might have been passed over if you just rolled everybody 50-0.
Well, and that's why 2019 was special, but also left such a sour taste in people's mouths, and especially, I was about to say including the team, but especially the guys in the locker room, right? Because that's what they did. They steamrolled. They went 15-3. They set a franchise record in wins. They beat just about everybody they could. They were the favorites going into the Grey Cup, and then what happened in the Grey Cup? That wasn't the Ticats we expected to see.
No, but you know what, though? A lot of the guys from that team are still on this team. Yeah. And that's why they say that, veteran leadership matters. And it's the intangible things that they bring to the locker room. Like, for example, you heard BG talk about it, just the mindset of a team that's up 14-0 or down 14-0. Depending on what kind of games you've been in the past, it's going to shape how you approach that position in the game. In my experience, I've played on teams that have been down by 3 scores, come back and won. I've been on teams that have been up by a lot, and we've given up the lead and made it way too close. So having veterans who can grab those younger guys and say, hey, focus in, we still got some work to do, that goes a long way. And it's not just coming from the coach, but it's coming from somebody within the team.
All right, we're going to revisit Courtney's CarStar keys to victory in just a second, but I did want to get your thoughts, because you brought up the schedule and these games at home and the road-heavy start. Ticats have 7 games left. Of those 7 games, 5 of them are here at Tim Hortons Field. 1 of them is in Toronto against the Argos. The Ticats do not have to get on a charter. Like we were talking about the charter, they might as well enjoy it now, because the Ticats only have to get a charter once more the entire season when they go to Edmonton on October 29th. Does that play into anything at all? I mean, that home heavy schedule to finish, is there anything mentally, is there anything physically you think the Ticats have an advantage there?
Well, I mean, if you've ever been to Tim Hortons Field, they have quite the advantage there. Yes. Let's just be honest. Last season that they played here, they ran the gambit at Tim Hortons Field. This year, they're doing pretty dang well at Tim Hortons Field. It's a blustery place, just the way the stadium is set up. On the south side, you got the mountain. On the north side, you got the sea, or not the sea, but yep. you got the lake, right? So the geography of the area makes it very tough for opponents to come in here and play. You can't turn up the wind in practice, right? So when you come into Tim Hortons Field, it's a hostile environment. The fans feel like they're all over you, screaming, making themselves felt, their presence felt. And I think that our guys really play into that, and they take advantage of that home field.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned it. They have not lost at home since 2018. You'd have to go back to 2018, the last time the Ticats lost at home. It's a stretch of more than 1,000 days that the Ticats haven't lost here at Tim Hortons Field. We're looking forward to seeing fans back here at Tim Hortons Field on October the 2nd. And if you want to be here, we're giving away a pair of gold seats to see the Ticats. You got to send us an email at gameday@ticats.ca. Gameday@ticats.ca. Include the keyword Pigskin Pete in the subject line and tell us your name and the city you live in inside the email. That's simple. If you're listening live, that's great. Make sure you send it in now. But if you're listening in podcast form, you have until noon on Thursday, September the 23rd, to get your entry in. All right, let's revisit Courtney's Car Stars keys to victory. They must have been listening pregame because they got the job done. Let's start with number one.
Well, definitely, I think we did outplay Ottawa's defense. I mean, we forced a few 3-and-outs. We had the picks. We had the fumble recovery. And I think overall, you really just stymied that offense. They couldn't find an answer. They couldn't move the ball. No big explosive plays down the field. And I think they might have tested Ciante once on a deep ball, and he broke that up nicely. So whether it was a run, whether it was the pass, whether it was a play action, we had people in the spots to make tackles and shut them down. The
Ottawa Redblacks giveaways, they had 6 giveaways, 2 fumbles, 1 interception, 3 turnovers on downs. You can't expect to win football games if that's what you're doing. And full credit to the Ticats defense. We mentioned Jumal Rolle. He was our performer of the game. I mean, he read that route perfectly and knew when to jump. And like you had asked him, is that something you kind of wait for? And he picked his spot and he got it. And to run the ball back 86 yards, I mean, it when we were watching, it didn't seem like that much, but 86 yards, that's a sprint. And
you know what? He's a team guy, so he's going to give credit to a lot of different people for helping him out there. And for sure, the D-line, the linebackers, they were in their spots to make it so the quarterback had no choice but to go there. But, you know, Jumal Rolle made a pro play right there. You're playing in the boundary. You're playing on the corner. It's one of the most demanding spots in the CFL, going up against the other team's best threat every game. And you know what? He's been doing a great job all season at a tough job, and you got hats off to him.
And again, he's coming in for a guy, Delvin Breaux, who, the Bermuda Triangle we talked about. Those are big shoes to fill. And for Jumal Rolle to honestly step in there and not miss a single beat is really impressive.
Well, you know what, though? The guy is a pro. If you see him in the locker room, he's a guy who shows up early. He's a guy who stays late. He's on his film study. He communicates. I mean, and the man is built like an athlete. He's big, tough, not afraid to tackle. He can go up and catch the ball. He does it all. No better person to step into those shoes of Big Bro Show and actually make his own mark.
All right, so that was Car-Star Key to Victory number 1. We're going to give a thumbs up for the Ticats for getting that one done. What did we have for Key to Victory number 2?
The second key to victory was deal with Dedmon. And I'm not sure we got that one all the way locked down. It didn't end up being fatal, but you do have to give credit to the Ottawa team and to their lone bright spot, Devontae Dedmon. He came out and gave a Warriors effort. He had that one big touchdown run, breaking tackles, and really giving it his all. But at the end of the game, we were able to, rattle him enough. He did have a couple of mistakes, but, he left it all out there, and, hats off to him for really making it tough on the Ticats.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what happened on that fumble. He had his eyes on the ball the entire time, just misread it. The conditions were about as favorable as they were the entire game. He did have that return touchdown. He was the only offense the Redblacks could do, and he did have some big returns. We go back to that first punt return of the game that he had. He got it up to the 30-yard line, but a special teams penalty. We talked about Coach Reinbold and what he's like in meeting rooms when you got to review those special teams penalties, and there's going to be a couple that he's going to have to look at. But I meant to say, like, we give thumbs up, thumbs down. I don't remember much about my elementary school French, but I do remember the saying "comme ci, comme ça." And I feel like that's appropriate for that. So, like, for contained Edmond, I think we give the Ticats a comme ci, comme ça, if that makes any sense.
I mean, because we got out with the win, I'll agree with you.
Okay.
But 250 yards, we'll sweep it under the rug for now.
All right. Maybe not so comme ci, comme ça. Maybe a little thumbs down. But, all right. Okay, what do we have for number 3?
Number 3 was take the layups on offense. And you know what? They did that because they ran the ball well, given the circumstances. David Wofford came out there, took what the defense gave him. They had a lot of success on those outside screen plays, getting the receivers the ball very quickly, allowing them to turn into running backs and basically make plays. And even their most explosive play of the night to Jalen Acklin, it wasn't a play where the ball was stretched down the field. They caught him in stride in space and gave him an opportunity to be a playmaker. And that's a layup. You give the ball to the guy quickly and let them do what they get paid to do.
Watford, those little 5-yard runs. And, again, we talked about it at Tiger Cats at the half. But I think it's worth mentioning again because David Watford didn't turn the ball over. David Watford took what was given to him on those QB draw plays, on those designed runs, on those RPOs, right? I mean, David Watford managed this game. He limited his mistakes. And because of it, he can now say, regardless of if whether Masoli's back on Saturday, when Dane Evans is back, I mean, he's a winning quarterback in the CFL, and that's a hard thing to say.
Absolutely. And you know what? He's building confidence in himself, his teammates confident in him, and his coaches confidence in him. So going into the later stretch of the season, regardless of who's starting at quarterback in this league, you need to have multiple guys ready to play that role. And he's cementing himself as somebody who's able to carry that.
If we could name him performer of the game, I'm sure we could have given him a shout out. But Drew Stroshine, I mean, the equipment manager, longtime equipment manager. I mean, he must have been the busiest guy on the field. What is his role? I mean, in general, we know what he does. He's such an important part of this Ticats team. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, he is the equipment manager of the Ticats. I believe we can call him the longest serving Ticat basically right now, but he's the equipment manager. On a day like today, what would you be going to Drew with? What would Drew be coming to you with to make sure that your equipment's right, you're feeling good? Like, what would Drew be like on the sidelines today?
Man, these are the little X factors that people don't know about. But as a player, you're going to bring multiple different cleats to the game because you don't know what that surface is going to be like. And maybe you go out there in the warm-up and you think you're going to go with the molded cleat, right? And then you get through the first half, you got your spats all top of your tape on top of your shoes, and you're slipping around. You say, Drew, I need to go with the studs. And Drew, trusty Drew has your studs packed, even if you forgot them in your locker. So he's the guy who has the extra pair of gloves. He's the guy who has the sweatbands to keep the water from getting on your hands. He's the guy who's got the towels. He's the guy who's got all the extra stuff that you need so that when you're not ready, he's got your back.
And we've seen him come up huge. I know he got Coach O challenge flag a few weeks ago that he didn't have handy. And I feel like today was an important day to shout out Drew because, like you said, as an X-Factor guy, I mean, I bet you a lot of the guys who have come through the CFL has said the same thing to me about Drew and just how good he is at what he does. And on a game like this where it's pouring rain and you feel like you'll never be dry again, I feel like he's one of those guys who could have gotten a shout-out for, and he is getting a shout-out for being a top performer tonight.
Definitely. Shout out to Drewski.
All right, let's revisit some of these highlights here from the game. The Ticats, again, winning 24-7. They did it by just getting 3 first downs in the second half. And I didn't want to pose a question to Coach because I know he was just going to be happy about the win. He was going to talk about how hard it was going to be to get the win. But 3 first downs against an Ottawa Redblacks defense that was giving you a lot more. Do you attribute that to Ottawa just kind of stepping up their game? Like, what did you make of the kind of tale of two halves by the Ticats here?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors that go into it, but generally at halftime, that's the first chance the coach really has to get in front of the whole defense. The coordinator in the booth comes down and breaks down what they've been seeing. So that's when you're going to see big adjustments, and you're going to see adjustments from the offense and the defense. Maybe they saw that, we're playing a certain type of coverage, and we're going to change that because they've been taking advantage of it. And I think that you saw that reflected in the play calling of the Ticats. In that second half, we didn't see as much of those same screen passes and whatnot in the third quarter, but then in the fourth, they went back to them because that was what working in the first half. So, it's just the in-game adjustments and how you can manage that game and change the game plan to be what works. I think that Ottawa did a good job in adjusting, but it wasn't enough for them.
Yeah, and again, we saw, like you said, we saw the Ticats. It looked like there was a bit of a conversation between Coach O and Tommy. I'm not sure what was said, but it seemed like things were getting a little more productive in the fourth quarter. But again, I'm not one to nitpick here. Watching from where we're watching the game, these guys are the pros. They make the play calls, and they got the win. And Scott Mitchell had said, like when the CEO of the team is saying things like that, when Coach O is saying, a win's a win.
And you know what, like, at the end of the day, that's what it is. So we can be upset about it, but I think that's something they take into the next week and they learn, like, okay, teams know now. We're going to come out and we're going to throw the screen. We got 5 different screen passes, and we're going to run them 3 times a game each. We got a couple different run formations. We're going to do these misdirection. Now, with this extra time, you can add in another wrinkle, and hopefully we can get that short to intermediate passing game sewed up for Wofford.
Looking at the Ticats injured list, I mean, this 10 days seems like a lifetime because 4 games in 17 days. Like, it's hard to understate. Like, I'm tired. Like, I've been calling these games. I've been going to practices. I'm not doing anything physical other than occasionally taking the stairs to the 7th floor of Tim Hortons Field here. But, like, I'll tell you right now, like, I'm exhausted doing 4 games in 17 days. Like, cards on the table. These guys are actually playing these games. Like, there's a mental aspect to it too, but like, just these 10 days off, what's it gonna mean?
Everything. And I guarantee you, like BG said, you got to take care of your body, and I think we know that, right? The younger guys maybe don't have as much of a routine as some of the older guys because you have to develop that over time, and you have to listen to your body. So some people like it hot. Some people like it cold. Some people like a foam roller. Other people like a massage. Yeah. But you got to get into your routine and take care of your body because even if right now you're not super sore, later in the year, it's all going to add up. Yeah. So you have to take advantage. And we can't overstate that the mental aspect of this game is also very stressful. You're memorizing new plays. You got hand signals to look at, there's bright lights on you. You're answering to the media and the press. You're doing interviews. Maybe you're away from your family. They're in another city and you're just, sitting up in an apartment, just studying football all the time. You got to unplug, and that's the only way that you're going to make it through the whole season.
I assumed players love doing interviews with me. What are you talking about?
You know what? I've heard some things that...
Oh, I don't even want to know where this is going to go now.
No, I'm messing with you, man. Honestly, the people in Hamilton, they love their football, and we've always had a great relationship with the media. But to be honest, sometimes you need to just flip on that PlayStation and just play a couple games.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that in the next few days for sure. And we're looking at these 10 days off. And then you look at the guys who are on the Ticats one-game injured list. You have to think Mike Daly could come back. One-game injured list. He's been out since week 1. Devere Posey moved from the 6-game injured list to the 1-game injured list. We saw him limited out there in the 1 day of practice, but that could be someone. Like, Devere Posey's a 1,000-yard receiver. Devere Posey is a Grey Cup champion. Having him back would be huge. Braylon Addison. What's Jeremiah Masoli going to be like 10 days from now? And I misspoke earlier saying 10 days off. They'll probably get a couple days off. They'll be back at practice next week, but those few days off in between practices will be huge. Don Jackson, he's such a huge part of this offense. He's on the 1-game injury list. I mean, we haven't seen this Ticats team at its full potential.
No.
And, that should be scary for the rest of the CFL.
Isn't it though? Can we be honest here? Can we?
I know we're on Tiger Cats postgame here, like, and you might feel a tinge of bias, but
goodness gracious, man, can we look at this fully formed Voltron of a team? Like, we haven't even seen a flash from Don Jackson yet, and can we talk about an explosive player? I mean, I would love to see him get on the field and really mix it up. Another guy, like you said, Devere Posey, who's got breakaway potential when he gets the ball. I still see flashbacks of that big play he made in the Grey Cup for Toronto so many years back to score from almost like 100 yards. I mean, you got guys on this list who literally any one of them has a potential to hit it from 50-plus yards away. So I'm excited to see what the back half of the season Ticats look like.
Chris Van Zyle's working his way back from injury. He'll be eligible to come off the sixth game in a few weeks as well. I mean, we haven't even seen first overall pick Jake Burt. You know, Tommy Condell was excited about drafting him and finding a way to use him. We saw Nikola Kalinic go down late there, got up under his own power, but he's been a huge part of this offense. And then, I mean, to the Chris Van Zyl point, I'm not sure if we're talking about Jordan Murray enough to be able to go into that kind of that right tackle spot as an American and take over for a 14-year CFL vet, the reigning most outstanding offensive lineman in the CFL, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer, I would say, in Chris Van Zyl, based on his career accomplishments. Jordan Murray, John Yarborough, and then that offensive line. They took so much crap from people who would watch the first two games. What's wrong with this offensive line? I've been seeing them grow every single game. I thought maybe they took a little step back against the Argos, but these last 2 weeks, when you're not talking about the offensive line, they haven't taken any penalties. They're not taking holdings. They're really good. And a team, I think, sometimes is only as good as their offensive line, and I just wanted to make sure we got some love in here for them because I think they've been playing outstanding football lately.
No, absolutely. And to your point, the coach has been putting him in a position to be great. You know, he's giving them an opportunity to do things that work well for them. And I think we mentioned this in pregame. It's like if you're working with an offensive line where you've got some guys who've got they've got games under their belt, like Brandon Revenberg, Darius Sirocco. He's been in there playing, maybe not necessarily at the center position, but these guys, they've played a little bit, and you want them to have a chance to gel together. That's the ultimate thing because those five, they got to be on one accord on the offensive line. And I think in the last two games, they've really showed that they're forming up. They're becoming one together. And they're giving David Wofford, they're giving Sean Thomas Erlington, they're giving whoever has the ball in that backfield a chance to make plays. And that's all we can ask. And
it's funny. I would like to talk about Darius Sirocco and what he's been able to do. And we mentioned it earlier, 3 different quarterbacks. You know, taking over, like, there's really only been, like, 3 centers for the Ticats in the last, 10, 15 years, right?
That's crazy to think
Marwan Hage passed the torch to Mike Filer, who passed the torch to Darius Sirocco. And Darius Sirocco's only in his 3rd season in the CFL. He's 25 years old, and he's such a huge part of this Ticats offense that, it's easy to talk about the offensive line, like I said, when they give up 6 sacks. People are going to pick here and there. I haven't seen anyone on Twitter in the last 2 weeks complain about the offensive line, but I also haven't seen them praise them. So I want to make sure we're getting the love for those big guys up front because they deserve it.
Man, center is one of the hardest positions in football. You got your head down. You got to snap the ball to the quarterback. Meanwhile, identify the Mike backer, call out the blocking scheme, and then backpedal. Okay, so I wanna let people know how tough it is. Besides quarterback and probably playing man-to-man defense on the corner, center has got to be one of the most difficult positions in all of football.
Hey, if you missed any of tonight's Tiger Cats postgame, you can catch up on all the analysis from Courtney and I in podcast form. It's a great way to get your morning rolling after every game. And you can do it tomorrow. Find it under Ticats Audio Network, anywhere you get your podcast. Our thanks to our audio technician, Jordan Moore, audio editor, David Butko, statistician, Jeff Giradat, and executive producer, Dave Cadeau. This has been Tiger Cats football for Courtney, Steven. I'm Louie B. The final score, it's the Ticats 24, the Redblacks 7. Make sure to join us next time out on October the 2nd when the Hamilton Tiger Cats take on the Montreal Alouettes. For all of us here at the Ticats Audio Network, thanks for tuning in. Have a great night.